Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks. Today with another interview video. Today we're going to go to Palma de Mallorca and talk to Alison, who works in the education sector there. And we have a chat about how the current crisis is affecting education here in Spain and around the world in general. Let's go to the interview. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very, very well. How's life there today in Mallorca?
Phase one. Ready.
Phase one. Did you get up to anything special?
Well, not much yet, but I went for a walk this morning and I got quite emotional actually, seeing all the little bars and cafes opening, and I just walked down to the port, and again it's just, it's just weird, 2 weeks of not 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 months of not seeing anybody other than in a supermarket, and now these people sit. It's like almost like normal, but not.
Were you surprised by the amount of people out and about having a coffee?
No, not. I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised who people aren't going to be out today. I mean, I know, people have varying degrees of risk and anxiety about it all, don't they? So I understand that, but no, it was just lovely. It was just so nice to see. I mean, one of our little local restaurants has got the tables outside, and every single one of them's got a reserve sign on it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's what they have to do in order to keep the numbers under control, I suppose. Yeah. So just tell us something about yourself, Alison. You've been living in Spain for less than a year, I think you said the other day, was it?
Since August, 13th of August.
And from the UK originally, obviously?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And what made you come to Spain?
So I'm a teacher. I'm a principal at the school here, as I said, and I'm 27 years in the UK as a teacher, the last 7 as a principal, and I just decided I wanted to move on, wanted a new challenge, didn't really have a plan, you know what happens when you make plans in life. And then I saw the job advertised and really loved Mallorca. I'd always loved Mallorca. Then, cut a long story short, that's what it was. It was the job that lured me here. And as I always say to people, the job was the cake, and living in Mallorca was the icing on the cake. But I very much wanted, a good, interesting, challenging job, and it it certainly has been. It's been quite a first year.
Yeah, we'll talk about the education side of all of this in a minute. But you'd been to Majorca before, obviously, then, right? So you liked what you'd seen there, and you decided that to be able to work there would be another interesting aspect.
Yeah, I'd been as a holiday maker, obviously as a tourist. I'd been about 10 times though, actually. So I did know the island as a tourist, but a little bit, and was always thought it was really beautiful. And when I saw this job advertised, it was a rainy, cold January day, and it just sort of leapt out at me. As I said, I knew I wanted to move on after 7 years, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and the job asked for all sorts of experience that I didn't have, like international experience and ability to speak Spanish and all the rest of it. So I just applied anyway, and that I obviously saw something in my profile. And as I say, I've been leading the school since September.
Now that's an interesting point. So you'd been to Spain on holiday. Obviously, you'd liked what you'd seen. And has there been a big difference or much of a difference between living and coming here on holiday?
Well, because the job is. It currently is, but it certainly was before this as well, very full on. And I knew that. I knew there was work that needed to be done in the school, and I liked the challenge, and I take my work really seriously. So I have not sort of taken advantage as much as living here as I intend to, or as I intended to. So I hadn't, it was very full on. And it's a British international school, so it's an English spoken environment. So shamefully, I still haven't had, started to master Spanish, which is very much the intention, because I don't want to be just the expat abroad at all. I want to learn the language. I want to get into the culture of the place. I want to go off the beaten track of, as there's a lot of very, very, again, not at the minute, but there's some very tourist heavy places, which is not what I'm interested in. I want to be part of the Spanish culture. I haven't taken advantage of it enough yet, as I said, and now it's all been a little bit put on hold, but I absolutely want to. I don't want to be everyone will speak English. I don't want to be that person. I mean, people told me when I came, oh, I've been here 3 years and I still don't speak any Spanish. And I thought, well, I don't want to be that person. That's not what I've come here for. And I love Spain. I love Europe. I love the Mediterranean. I love Spanish culture and the food and all of those things. So no, but I haven't taken advantage enough of it yet.
So you're looking to learn the language in the future and get into the Spanish culture a bit more?
Oh, I really want to learn the language. I was terrible at languages at school. I'm not a natural linguist, and I am absolutely determined. I'm absolutely determined.
Well, there you go. That's it. That's a challenge for the future. I think a lot of people come here and they do fall into the trap of, moving to areas where there are big expat communities. And I'm sure that in Majorca there is a big expat community. So if you didn't want to learn the language, you would never have to. But it does take your experience here in Spain to the next level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I said, I totally. I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to speak it. It's not about if, it's when.
Good. Now, you said that the education side of all of this, of course, schools have been, well, I'm not going to say paralysed because you've been able to adapt to an online type of learning, but I suppose it came as a bit of a shock to have to send kids home in those initial weeks and trying to get everything organised from an online point of view. How much of a challenge was that?
It was a huge challenge, but one to which the staff rose brilliantly. And in some ways, we were fortunate. The school, Baleares International College, Saprassa, is part of a global group, Orbital Education. And about 3 years ago, the group invested heavily in the technology, the platform that we use, which is Canvas, in the event of something happening that a school would have to go online learning. Obviously, nobody ever predicted anything of this. I remember the CFO saying that they always in their head thought of something like a fire in one of their schools, and the schools, but they had prepared for that. So we had the technology, and the staff had, like you would expect, very, very varying degrees of competency in that, from very good to quite novice. But because we could see how things were unraveling and seeing what was happening in other countries. So we were sort of building up to that in that first couple of weeks in March before Friday the 13th was our last day in school. So in that last week, the staff, we had intensive training. We did all the preparation for that. So it was, if anything can be seamless in these crazy times, that was quite seamless.
You said the teachers were given some type of training before, okay, so they were able to adapt fairly quickly. What about the kids? Were the kids able to go online fairly easily? Obviously nowadays, with all of the technology they have in their hands, I suppose it wouldn't have been an issue. But were there any that had trouble moving on to the online learning environment?
Well, there were some technical hiccups in the first few days, as you would expect. Again, we'd been using the platform Canvas, which is the one that we use, and the kids, so they had their logins and they had been familiar with it. But there's always like we just had a freeze there. There's always some little technical, but we got a really good IT support team as well, based both here in the school and also at the head office that is based in the UK. So those technical glitches we were able to address easily. And yeah, I've been, it's really, I can go into lessons online. I can go and visit the lessons myself, like I would in the building when I'd go into classrooms and see the quality of teaching and learning. So I dipped into a year 2 lesson this afternoon when the children were doing a show and tell with the learning support assistant. It was so nice to see the children getting that interaction and that as close to the real thing as is possible. So the staff have been tremendous, and the kids. And the families, many of them, of course, working from home and having to support their children. And like you said, some families having to share devices.
Is that one of the issues there that I mean, probably it's not the case considering it's a private fee-paying school, but is it an issue with kids, having access to the technology all the time? Do you feel that, kids have, I don't know what age kids have their own phones nowadays, but do they have iPads? Do they have laptops? Are they able to have access to these things?
Well, it's a mixed economy, to be honest, Stuart. I mean, we have some families who are clearly have quite comfortably off, and probably their children have access to their own device, but not all, and some are sharing. We've been able to provide some to some of the families that have needed that. So that is challenging, and even in the homes where there might be a couple of laptops or iPads, very often the parents are needing to use them for their own work. So that has been challenging. But as I said, everybody's been tremendous. I've got lots of friends back in the UK, as I think I was saying to you the other day, working in schools, and it's a very, very patchy picture there, where there's children where they're from disadvantaged communities, which is the schools that I used to work in the UK, where there is very limited access to some devices. So that that is a real concern and issue.
There's no thought that this is a lost year from an education point of view, do you think, or do you think that 2020 is going to be wiped off the map and we start again in 2021?
No, absolutely not a lost year. Absolutely not. We've been delivering high quality teaching and learning, as I say, ever since we've been into lockdown. And what we will be doing, what we're talking about already when we go back, whenever that is, most likely September for the vast majority of the children, we've been talking about how we can assess the children and see where there might be some children who have fallen behind. Of course, there might have been some children who've fallen behind and will need an extra bit of support. That some of our children are doing really well. Some of our children are making really, really good progress. So it's absolutely not the case that a lost or a wasted year for the children in our school supported by our teachers. I'm sure there's, as I say, especially in the environments I'm used to back in the UK, where some children might not have accessed much learning for a considerable amount of time. But that's not the situation with us. But what we are doing is thinking very hard about when we go back in the building. We're thinking about the health and safety, of course, but that's pretty clear and pretty laid down in what those regulate. Well, they're not clear at the minute, but they will be clear what the regulations are in terms of social distancing, hygiene, all of those things. Those are quite straightforward. What's less straightforward and what we're focusing on is, like you say, looking at any gaps in learning, and also that socialization. The children won't have been able to, really important element of school is that socialization, and some of them, it will be an anxious time returning to school. So we're looking at all of those facets of education.
I can imagine, yeah. The government's mentioned here that the class sizes are going to need to be reduced, that a lot of schools are going to have to maintain that blended learning approach. Yeah. If anybody doesn't know what that is, that's a mixture of online and face-to-face classes. Do you think that your school in particular, but schools in general, will be able to adapt to reduced class sizes? Do you have the space? Do you have the teachers? Do you need more teachers? Are you going to have some type of split day where some students come in the morning and others come in the afternoon?
Yes to all of those questions, really. That's a whole program in there in itself, isn't it? Because the government, I sometimes think the people who make these decrees and these rules don't actually work in schools. So I've heard, again, we haven't had anything confirmed, but I've heard exactly what you're talking about: social distancing measures, class sizes, all of those things. And again, it will be very dependent on the school. We've heard this number of 15, and that's what we're kind of working to. We're looking at our school and looking at the different classes and thinking, where could children be safely taught in those spaces? And we have a relatively low teacher-student ratio, so we're looking at how we can make that work. But like you said, there'll be some schools where the space alone is the issue. And I think that mix of the blended learning, as you said, that online and in the physical building, is going to be a model that a lot of schools are going to have to adopt for some time.
And how does the school system here, are you on an international curriculum or are you on the local curriculum? How does it change between the UK and here, the school year, the teaching methods, the subjects that you have to get through?
Well, we're a British international school, so and it's really equal focus on both. So it is a British international school. It follows the British national curriculum. The teachers are all overwhelmingly British or UK trained. The exception are the language teachers who are it's their mother tongue. So our Spanish teachers, our Spaniards, etc. French are French nationals. But it's predominantly a British international with UK trained. That sort of gold standard of UK teacher training, and we follow the British national curriculum. But with the flexibility to have our, it's not rigid. We want to make it to fit the students and the international arena, and to things like history and geography. We have to focus more on things that be more relevant to our student body. But it is, and so we follow the British school year, September through to, well, actually June in England, it's through to July, but the similar sort of holiday patterns, etc.
Yeah, I know there is a difference here. My son goes to a local school here, and they do have a very, very long summer break. And it's a little bit hard for them to get back into that rhythm come September time. I know it normally takes him 2 weeks at least to get back into that rhythm after having such a long period of time off. And I suppose those are also things that could be looked at in the future as well. But again, you mentioned before that a lot of the people that take decisions aren't from an educational background themselves, so it might not be true.
But nobody loves the school holidays more than me. I mean, I always say having good school holidays is one of the teaching profession's perk. Teachers work really hard. It's very full on. It's a really, really important job. We're moulding the future. I absolutely defend the teachers' right to enjoy the holiday time that they have. And as I said, no one more than me. However, that said, educationally, the holiday system is a nonsense, and it's utterly indefensible, because exactly what you said, children are being out of school for that long period of time. They're getting out of study habits. Children that are disadvantaged or maybe have struggled with their learning. Certainly from my experience in the UK, and it's only 6 weeks in the UK, things like reading ages can go backwards. And so from an educational point of view, it's nuts. But as a teacher, we benefit and enjoy that time because it is a very highly charged job when you're there. But yeah.
Yes, that's it. I've always said, especially, I think it's a little bit too long in his particular case. And I think one of the excuses they put forward is that obviously the summers here in Spain are very hot. Schools don't have air conditioning. And that's one of the reasons for the long holidays. But again, that could be debated, I suppose, Alison. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm sure there's a debate for everything.
It could be debated and it could be amended. What it absolutely is not is not educationally justifiable. It makes no sense. They have these, as you say, the long holiday and then a short holiday and then a long. There is no logic to it. And if you put, which I have tried to do about everything in the school, always have done children first, the holidays do not work. But these are national, international, as I said, the same in the UK. I think in the UK, wasn't it, that the long summer break stems from sort of over 100 years ago when the families used to go fruit picking or something and they needed that break. It's absolutely insane. It doesn't, you can't justify it from a teaching and learning point of view.
Yeah, difficult to do, that's right. So what's the plan then? You finish this year as school year finishes as normal with the online system? There's no talk of going back into the classroom before summer?
Well, there is talk. We're following the Conselleria closely. I was talking with my the HR manager who's following this afternoon. There is still nothing official. It is very much sounding like they're going to say from the 25th of May, certain groups of children, and at the minute it's the under sixes whose both parents have to go to work, and the exam classes, exam years, they sort of, well, they're not more important, but they have a specific exam that they're studying for, which in our case would be year 11 and 13, which is the 16-year-olds and the 18-year-olds. So it's not official yet, but we're kind of working to that maybe happening for the last 4 weeks of school. But we've got a really careful, clear plan of how we can do that, how we can stagger entry into the building. So it's all of those sorts of things. That's very doable. The bigger challenge is September. If there are very clear, if there's still these restrictions, if there's still these caps on class sizes, etc. We've got a number of staff coming from the UK. There's all of these logistical things to factor in. So, but we like a challenge.
So you hire people directly from the UK then, do you, Alison?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And how does the interview process go? Are you on Skype, or they come out and have a look around, or?
Well, it's a good question. So I, depending on the role, I do a lot of into the recruitment I did earlier this year, did a lot on the phone and Skype and like this. And obviously, you can get a lot from someone when you have a good in-depth conversation about their educational philosophy and what makes good teaching and learning. And of course, then you have references from where they currently work. I always ask people, what would your references say about you? What would the people who work with you say about you? Because I think that's a really important question. And some people, we appointed a wonderful new head of secondary who's joining us in September. And for that final stage, for a bit like when I was interviewed last year, for judges' houses, they flew us out here. So for some of those sort of more senior roles, we do bring people out to the final interview stage.
All right, good. Now, Alison, I'm going to have to cut the conversation short. I've got to speak to somebody here now at 7 o'clock, but it's been great speaking to you.
And you, thank you.
I hope all goes well with the challenges that the future are going to put forward, especially from an education point of view, and it's good to get that side of the conversation here on the channel, because we don't often talk to educators, as it is such a one of the sectors that has been greatly hit, I suppose, by all of this. Not only the workers, of course, but the kids as well.
Yeah. No one. Thank you for what you're doing. It's all the information and the updates. We're glued to it, and it's really helpful as well. And let's talk again. I mean, it's an interesting old world, education. Everyone's got a view on it. Everyone went to school, so everyone's an expert.
Yeah, that's what they say, isn't it? Everybody's gone through the system, so everybody's got their 20 cents worth.
Yeah.
All right, great speaking to you, and we'll have another chat maybe in the future once things get back up and running in the new normal, as they say.
The new normal, whatever that looks like. Yes, thank you very much, and you stay safe as well, Stuart. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, and enjoy phase 1.
Yes. Thank you.
See you later. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
So there we go. That was the interview with Alison. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. If you'd like to take part in one of these videos, there's also a link in the description below where you can contact me. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.